And now we get to our other baseball headline, which is history in Major League Baseball in the Miami Marlins' new front office. They have hired a new GM, and it is longtime executive and most recently senior VP of baseball operations for Major League Baseball, Kim Ng. She is the first woman as a general manager in the sport of baseball. She becomes the Marlins GM after they had uh, something of a cleaning of house after the 2020 season. Eng has previously served as an assistant GM for the Yankees in the late 90s and early 2000s, and later for the Dodgers, where she was from 2002 to 2011. Guys, a historic moment in Major League Baseball. Kim Eng, a baseball lifer, I think it can be said, gets her opportunity, and she becomes the new GM of the Miami Marlins.
And Jimmy, first off, not only is it historic for baseball, it's historic for all of American professional sports. She is the first woman to hold that position for any of the sports. So that's remarkable. It's also remarkable, in the grand scope of this past week. In the same week, we elected our first female vice president officially of the United States, and the Miami Marlins name Kim Ng the first ever female general manager of a Major League Baseball team, and it can feel very triumphant, like as if we've hit a point. We've hit a point of progression that is wonderful and triumphant and great, but we can't deny the fact that there is still work to be done. Kim Ng is clearly someone with a baseball mind and acumen that this should have happened for her a long time ago. And credit to Derek Jeter and the Marlins for finally pulling the trigger. But I saw a tweet this morning that was talking about how she was in baseball executive positions for longer than Theo Epstein had been alive when he was hired by the Red Sox. So that's I saw that now. I was like, I fact checked it just because I was like, that doesn't even make any sense. But it's completely true. So hopefully we get to a point where a woman of Ang's stature and acumen and intelligence, specifically for baseball, doesn't have to spend all of this time going to all these other different places just so she could be the general manager of a professional sports team. And hopefully that is something we can take into the future. So it's a wonderful moment, and I'm very hopeful for where this leads next.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think on the baseball side of it, she turns 52 next week. So could be a long-standing relationship between her and the Marlins, and hopefully it leads to great success. I mean, yeah, hats off to the Marlins for making this possible, and congrats to Kim Yang for being the first female general manager in American sports history. It's pretty hard to imagine that is still that was still true as of 3 days ago, that had not been a female general manager in American sports, but it was true. And now Kim Yang has a full offseason ahead of her to improve what was, I mean, yes, we can put an asterisk on it, but a playoff team this year in the Marlins. So on the baseball side of it, certainly a lot to be excited about.
Couple of points I want to make, and then you guys can play me off and move on. It's interesting that one of the words I saw used with this hire was outside the box, because if you were to blindly look at Kim Ng's resume, what she has done in baseball, and just look at the experience, right? Assistant GM for the Yankees from 1998 to 2002, which is the boom period in the history of the Yankees franchise. Assistant GM for the Dodgers, worked in Major League Baseball, has been, in the sport for 30 years. You would not say this was an outside the box hire. You would say that this is about as obvious of a hire as you could possibly make. And that leads me into the point that it is, while groundbreaking that she was hired, a little disconcerting that it took somebody in Kim Ng who is not just qualified, but so clearly overqualified for a role like this, that this is what it took for a team to hire a woman as GM. And yes, it's groundbreaking. And yes, it is a huge deal. And it's so powerful for young women who want to get into not just baseball, but any other sport that is male dominated. And they see someone like Kim Eng and they look at that and say, I can do it. That's a big deal. I'm not discounting that. But if you look at her resume, she should have gotten a GM job in the early 2000s. And I remember when I was first getting into baseball, when I was like 6, 7 years old, and she was coming up for GM vacancies back around like when the Mets hired Omar Minaya. And that was in, 2004, 2005. So that was, she's been around so long and she's been deserving of this, quite frankly, for so long. And you look at all the, jobs that she's been passed up for, those jobs have probably been turned over 2, 3 times by the time she finally got a shot in 2020 as the Marlins GM. So she's the first woman in this job. I don't think she's going to be the last. I don't know if she's going to be successful because nobody knows, whether or not she's going to be successful, but she deserves the chance to show what she has. Frankly, I also think she deserves the opportunity to fail. I heard a point that John Thompson made, the former head coach of Georgetown, who recently passed away. And he was talking about black head coaches. And it's a similar point that, yes, we deserve the opportunity to get a chance to succeed. But, we also deserve the opportunity that if we don't succeed, if we have a losing record, if we get fired, that it's not a referendum on all of us. In his case, black coaches. In Kim Eng's case, women as top executives, whether it be GMs or presidents of baseball operations. So Kim Eng deserves the chance to succeed. I just hope that she gets the opportunity to fail. And I think that this is a big moment in baseball, and I wish nothing but the best for Kim Eng and the Marlins. But just remember that if it doesn't necessarily work out, it isn't a referendum that, women can't be GMs or some ridiculous thought like that. It'll be because of some other factor. Frankly, with the Marlins organization, if she fails, it might very well not be her fault because we've seen what happens with that organization as well. So really happy to see that with Kim Eng. She is more than deserving, and I'm happy that she finally, about 10 to 15 years too late, gets her shot to be a GM.
I just want to make a quick point before I know we have to wrap. I think the hire shows how much respect she garners in the positions that she holds. You look at her, the owner who hired her, Derek Jeter, was the player on the team in the 1998-2002 New York Yankees. We know that. The manager of the Marlins, Don Mattingly, they didn't necessarily cross over with the Dodgers, but there's certainly people that worked with both of them. I'm sure that they know each other in some certain situation. Now, she worked for the MLB for the last 9 years, so everybody's probably in some degree worked with her. But I think it does show the respect that she garners in the positions that she's held in the past in baseball, that it was, of all teams, the Jeter and Mattingly-led Marlins that finally pulled the trigger.
Absolutely. And, we have a couple more minutes here. So, and I know the last thing anyone wants to hear is 3 guys talking about a woman's place in sports. But and it also should be noted that Eng is also the first Asian American to sit in this type of position. But I totally agree with what you were talking about, Jimmy, in terms of being able to fail, because I think more than anything, let's say you become a manager or a head coach in any sport. There are assistant coaching positions to help you be ready to hit that position. There is nothing in the world that can really prepare you to be the general manager of a sports team. You're either it's going to take time for someone to be good at that who's never done it before. And there's no one more qualified than Eng is. And there's no one who's never been a GM before that I would trust more than her. But we as baseball fans and people who analyze baseball, and there's no doubt there's going to be a very tough magnifying glass on her this season and for the next few seasons to come if she is with Miami for so long. We're going to have to give her time. We're going to have to be patient, and we're not going to, like you were saying, Jimmy, treat this as a thesis of women as sports general managers.